Turn to item number 24, which is our fiscal year 2023-24 proposed budget and fiscal year 2024-29 capital improvement plan CIP. And before our city manager gets started, we have a lot of people who are interested in this item tonight. Particularly, I believe the men in blue, the men and women in blue. I did speak earlier today with a Miss Meredith Carter. I believe she's here this evening. Hey, Ms. Carter. And ask her if she would allow us to have 3 spokesmen to speak tonight to the fireman issue. We will be having a public hearing on June the 5th. We want to hear from every last person that wants to speak. However, you can see we have a packed crowd, so we will have the opportunity to hear from everybody on 3 different occasions on this particular matter. We will start that tonight. We have people who will be speaking on the fireman issue, and we also others who are here tonight to speak on other parts of the CIP. So you will have the opportunity to speak again on the next date, and you also have one other time that I want to tell you all about that you can come on this Thursday. For our work session, there is a citizen comment matter. And so I would invite you also to come then. We want to make sure that we hear from everybody that wants to speak, but because we have a packed docket and it's night, and we want to make sure that we give ample opportunity for us to give as much time as possible, I would ask that we allow those other folk who are here tonight to also be able to speak before 12 o'clock midnight. So we would ask that you please allow us to do this, and you will be given the opportunity to speak as long as 3 minutes allows at each of those occasions, okay? All right, so council, I'm sorry, I will now turn it over to our city manager for the first presentation on our CIP.
Good evening. As your city manager, I am honored this evening to present to you my proposed budget for fiscal year 2023-2024 for the city of Durham. Each year at this time, I pause to reflect on the past year, to assess the city's accomplishments, as well as consider all the work that remains to be done. To say that we've accomplished a lot in our effort to make this city an even greater place to live, work, and play would be an understatement. And we've done so while facing the winds of life, the winds at our back pushing us forward, and the winds we sometimes face, some professional and some personal, that come at a time that we least expected. But our challenge is to face those winds head on with courage, knowing that we're all on the same team. In fact, the challenge is, as the old Chinese proverb says, to use those winds to build windmills. And build windmills we did, working together as city employees, working together with the leadership of our city council, and working together with you, our community, all of whom are our neighbors. Thanks to our heart team, the term neighbors now carries a broader meaning than someone who simply lives beside you. As with past budgets, I appreciate the guidance and support of our city's elected leaders, Mayor Elaine O'Neill, Mayor Pro Tem Mark Anthony Middleton, and all of the city council members. Each year, their steady guidance and direction is crucial to ensuring all our neighbors are included in Durham's prosperity. During this budget cycle, City Council and our staff spent time considering the work that remains to be done at 2 retreats we held in February. We also heard from many residents who raised their needs and priorities for this budget during our March public hearing. Throughout this presentation, you will see how I propose to maximize this budget to address those priorities as well as improve life for every one of our neighbors. For clarification, according to our HEART program developers, we are all neighbors, whether we are coworkers, residents, business owners, whoever. All of us come together as one neighborhood to make up this great city that we all call home. Again, as in past years, I must take time to celebrate our more than 2,600 city employees, neighbors who have been the wind at my back, pushing the city forward over the past years. I celebrate their dedication, their innovation, and their gutsy determination. For every one of them has been the driving force in maintaining our high standard of providing quality services for our city's residents. I want to make it very clear that I value our city employees for doing what it takes to get the job done in this environment. It's no secret that the city, like most municipalities and even some private sector employers, is experiencing a shortage of workers in several areas, especially our public safety and operations department areas. These areas are crucial to providing vital services, including keeping our city safe, to providing safe drinking water, to collecting our garbage. I can say without reservation that our employees have stepped up to ensure the services our residents expect didn't miss a beat. Long hours and being assigned other duties as needed have been necessary to fill in some of these gaps. I can assure you that my gratitude on behalf of the city is unending, and I will do my best to ensure that our employees continue to be rewarded appropriately through compensation and benefits. And as importantly, their health and well-being continue to be top priorities of my administration. I don't have to tell you that our many vacancies will not be filled overnight, but we're making every effort to attract new workers as well as keep our experienced and dedicated public servants. Throughout this presentation, you will see how the true meaning of neighbor permeated our thinking as we developed this budget, a budget that addresses the vital needs of our communities, from greatly enhancing our efforts to outreach to our neighbors in crisis, to ensuring that the top concerns of the community, affordable housing, street maintenance and repairs, recreation areas, and green spaces are prioritized. We will continue to make every effort to right the wrongs of the past by prioritizing investment and engagement in disinvested neighborhoods, which have been typically communities of color. This budget also supports other important efforts, providing Durham's youth paid career exploration opportunities and positive recreation and social experiences and activities, as well as creating equitable opportunities for shared prosperity for our businesses and our residents. Let's look at the fiscal year 23-24 budget by the numbers. The total proposed budget is $610 million, compared to $570.4 million last year, which is an increase of $39.6 million, and includes the city's general fund and the other funds highlighted here. You will hear more about these funds as the presentation progresses. The proposed property tax rate remains the same at 55.77 cents per 100 of assessed value. This is the same rate as last year. Real property growth of 3.62%, which generated an additional $9.4 million, played a large part in our ability to hold the tax rate at the current level. This tax rate means that the owner of a house valued at $244,539, which is the median house value according to the Durham County Office of Tax Administration, will receive a city tax bill of about $1,364 next year, or the equivalent of about $114 per month. The proposed general fund budget, which funds core city services, is $281.5 million, and that represents a $25.3 million increase compared to last year's budget. The general fund supports many of the services that the city provides, such as fire and police services, emergency communications, and parks and recreation. It also supports employee compensation, street paving, and capital improvement plan projects, to which much of the increase can be attributed. Let's talk about the city's primary sources of revenue, which are property and sales taxes. You can see that real property value has grown in Durham. Last year, while the pandemic continued to fuel a lot of uncertainty about the economy, Durham continued to weather the storm by exceeding revenue projections. Sales tax revenue is projected to increase a little more than 15% compared to the previous year's budget. Based upon the previous year's sales tax collections, we are budgeting $99.9 million for sales tax. Other sources of revenue are projected to increase as well, such as our occupancy tax and our state shared revenues. While Durham has consistently outperformed national and state financial indicators over the past few years, we don't bank on that trend and will always prioritize being good stewards of our taxpayer resources. We continue to recognize that while many are enjoying the fruits of the local economy, we must maintain a laser focus on our neighbors who continue to struggle to find housing they can afford, jobs at family-sustaining wages, and youth who need guidance and opportunity. To cover increasing operational costs, improve aging water lines, and support other capital needs, we're proposing modest increases to our water, sewer, and stormwater rates. These rate changes were discussed at City Council last work session and are on tonight's agenda for consideration. These new rates include an average monthly increase of $2.20 for water and sewer customers and a $1.55 monthly fee increase for stormwater, all of which will be effective July 1st. Also, you'll see here our parking rates will remain the same. Proposed general fund expenditures include increases for personnel costs, including new positions, market and merit pay increases for our employees, and the cost of providing excellent and competitive employee benefits. Operating expenditures are projected to increase by $1.2 million. Due to consistent, effective management of the city's resources and the City Council's policy on the use of fund balance, or our savings account, we have access to a strong fund balance. I am proposing appropriating $13.8 million from the fund balance for the one-time costs listed here, in addition to allocating $4 million for street maintenance and $5.4 million for departmental projects. I'd like to note that I am proposing transferring $3.3 million for one-time capital improvement projects and $500,000 to acquire and expand open space and trails. You see here that $608,000 is also included for the election costs later this year. This is a good time to share a couple of pieces of great news about Durham. One, your city government continues to enjoy a AAA bond rating from all three rating agencies, Moody's, Standard & Poor's, and Fitch. What this means is that we can borrow money or issue bonds for major projects at lower interest rates, thus saving our taxpayers dollars. And two, almost a year ago, the finance website Wallet Hub ranked Durham as the 10th best run city in the nation. Actually, it was the #1 ranked city in North Carolina. Now, that is a slight drop from 2021 when we ranked #7, but we'll still take it. You should know too, our ranking is not a fluke, as Durham has earned top 10 spots each year since 2018. Our complete budget document covers every detail of our revenue and spending for the coming fiscal year. This includes our core municipal services, such as solid waste, our roads, our water, our parks, and public safety, as well as other projects and initiatives that further our strategic goals. We have used our strategic plan, which was developed with input from our employees, our residents, elected officials, and other key stakeholders to guide our budget priorities. In tonight's presentation, I will focus on several priority areas for our organization and our community. Here are our top priorities that will be featured in this year's budget. For comparison, they are the same as last year's priorities. They are our public safety, our employee compensation, shared prosperity, and our capital improvement plan. Because we can't cover every single aspect of the budget tonight, I encourage you to review the complete proposed budget that is now available on our website at durhamnc.gov/budget. Our Community Safety Department was created in 2021 to pilot test ways to appropriately respond to residents or neighbors experiencing behavioral crisis rather than sending law enforcement. I am happy to say that the pilot is complete. In April, we celebrated the success of the HEART program, which stands for Holistic Empathetic Assistance Response Teams, with the premiere of a documentary explaining how the program works. More than 600 people attended the premiere and left with a better understanding and appreciation of the program. I must point out that the success of HEART, led by our Community Safety Department, is due to the strong partnership, collaboration, and support of our police, 911, and fire departments for the overall benefit of all of our neighbors. That is why I am happy to announce the expansion of this program to now serve the entire city. Instead of just the pilot areas, which represented roughly 1/3 of the city. Second, all HEART crisis response programs will operate 7 days a week, 12 hours per day. Currently, only our unarmed response teams operate on that schedule. These two changes mean that the HEART team, which has become a national model in this field, will be able to handle 3 times as many calls as they do now. And even more importantly, this expansion in the staff and the service area will ensure that many more neighbors receive the right services in their moment of crisis and are connected to the care that they want and need. I should also add that this expansion will free up other public safety responders, including our police, to respond to other priority calls throughout the city. We are also increasing our support for the Project Build and Bull City United programs, as well as continuing our funding support for the Durham Expunction and Restoration Program. As Durham continues to grow, we must be prepared to meet the public safety needs, including our fire protection. Development in the northern part of Durham comes with additional service needs. I have included funding for 16 new firefighters, 1 new fire inspector, and a new north side ladder truck to serve this area. A new ladder truck for the east side of our city is also funded in this budget. And in the Durham Police Department, we're continuing the funding for the ShotSpotter program to locate and address gunfire in the city. For more details and data collected about this program thus far, I encourage you to visit the ShotSpotter dashboard on our police department's webpage. As I said earlier, it is impossible to carry out our work without our dedicated employees doing their work, whether it's putting out fires, monitoring our drinking water, or coming to the aid of our neighbors when they need us most. Artificial intelligence, some call it AI, hasn't come that far yet. We absolutely must reward them appropriately by providing competitive salaries along with great benefits. You see on this slide that city employees will be eligible for 6 to 8% increases in their salaries this year, along with an appreciation bonus of $300 at the end of the year. Sworn employees who received market pay increases of 14 to 15% last year will receive an additional 2% pay structure increase and a 5% step increase, a total of 7% with the $300 year-end bonus as well. I've also included for a class and compensation study to ensure that our salaries are and continue to be competitive with the market, and to ensure that existing jobs are classified consistently. The Durham minimum livable wage will also increase from $17.60 per hour to $18.46 per hour effective July 1st. To meet the growing needs of our organization and community, this proposed budget includes the addition of 61 new full-time positions in several areas that you see here on the slide. This year, because the city has many positions which have remained unfilled for a while, some for a year or more, I have decided to repurpose a few of these positions and add them to departments where they are needed most. These 24 positions will come from the various departments you see listed here. Repurposing rather than creating all new positions has many advantages, including helping to manage the total position growth across the organization. Creating and promoting strategies and programs to ensure that all our residents share in Durham's prosperity continues to be a top priority. We're continuing to make progress in our efforts to provide affordable housing. My proposed budget of $14.3 million is a little more than a 2% increase over last year's budget, funded with a tax rate appropriation of 3.38 cents from the overall property tax. 2 cents, totaling $8.1 million, is included for planned affordable housing projects and services, and 1.38 cents, generating $6.2 million, will be used to pay the debt service for the $95 million affordable housing bond. All the dedicated housing fund is applied to Forever Home Durham. Forever Home Durham is our $160 million program creating affordable opportunities for renters and homeowners and stabilizing our neighborhoods. Through new construction, property repairs, and essential housing services, we're building a more inclusive and livable community. Over the next several years, the $95 million affordable housing bond, combined with local and federal funding, will be used to invest a total of $160 million to reach affordable housing goals established for the program. On the next 3 slides, you will see some of the progress that has been made to date, along with upcoming milestones for various Durham Housing Authority and City of Durham housing projects. 3 projects funded have been completed, adding 339 units. 4 other projects with 88 units have either started or are in continuing construction. And finally, we have either awarded or committed $42.5 million to create or preserve 1,036 housing units. Last year, we celebrated a significant boost to our housing goals. The City of Durham and the Durham Housing Authority received a $40 million Choice Neighborhood Initiative grant. The award, the result of a great collaboration between the City of Durham and Durham Housing Authority, will go toward developing 519 East Main Street and Liberty Street public housing properties and revitalizing the surrounding neighborhoods. The City Council has also dedicated $10 million of the American Rescue Plan Act funding for affordable housing goals. While we know achieving our housing goals will take some time, we are making significant strides toward ensuring that we can provide housing for our many neighbors who might feel left out of Durham's prosperity. Now let's touch on the city's transit goals. I am proud to say, with continued federal support of American Rescue Act plan funding, along with the resumption of state funding, we'll be able to continue fare-free service on Go Durham. As you saw earlier, 3.75 cents of the property tax is budgeted to pay for core transit services. We've been fortunate to be awarded federal transit grants, along with the federal funding, to improve our transit services, including our bus system. Go Durham. An additional transit planner is included to help manage our transit services. We also recognize that traffic fatalities across the state, especially as they involve pedestrians and bikes, have increased. Therefore, I have included funding for a Vision Zero coordinator to lead the program to help develop strategies to reduce the number of fatalities occurring in Durham. I am proud of our Durham Youth Works program. It is supported by local businesses, by Duke University and health system, Durham County, and the city. The program continues to be a way to engage our young neighbors to give them skills they'll need to enter the job market. I want to make sure that every youth who wants a summer job experience can have one in Durham. This year, approximately 700 young people aged 14 to 24 have applied for the program, and it is my mission to see that every single one of them can participate. The budget includes $600,000 to support this life-changing program. On this slide, you will also see support for other programs aimed at providing opportunities for neighbors who need vocational training or guidance. In addition to adopting the proposed budget, City Council will also soon adopt our updated capital improvement plan, which guides our long-term capital projects such as infrastructure and facilities. While the proposed capital improvement plan update will be presented during the upcoming budget work sessions, some of the newly proposed capital projects are noted on the next 3 slides. The capital improvement budget includes a little over $306 million for new projects and to complete existing ones. The funding includes $84.7 million for important general government capital needs. These projects were prioritized using an equity lens or screening questions to determine who would benefit from the improvement and who may be burdened by it. The assessment also looks at unintended outcomes of the proposed projects. I am also proposing that we continue our capital commitments for our fleet replacement program and for our street maintenance and repaving programs. This slide shows funding dedicated to our enterprise capital projects, including our water and sewer, our stormwater, and our solid waste projects. Over the past year, we have been providing updates about our progress toward our commitment to green and equitable infrastructure. A half-cent tax continues in this budget for projects important to neighborhoods that have historically received fewer resources or investment. We are proud to say that this list was created with the ideas of the neighbors who live in these neighborhoods, their input, and they helped us prioritize these first projects. For the coming year, projects totaling $17 million will be funded. On this slide, you see a list of projects for enhanced and equitable green spaces. Also included in that number are other infrastructure projects to improve or build sidewalks, to improve pedestrian safety, and for stormwater. For years, enhancing the Fayetteville Street corridor has been on the radar of both the city and the many stakeholders who live and work there. We, the administration, and elected officials have heard your voices, and while not all inclusive of planned corridor investments, we're including and highlighting $10 million to help rediscover, enhance, and create with the community a sense of place for this valued and historic area of our city. On this slide, you see that this funding will support a variety of efforts, including residential and commercial real estate programs, small business support, along with street, sidewalk, and landscape improvements. These investments will be dedicated and time-bound. Now that I've presented highlights from the proposed budget, it is time for our elected leadership and our community members to take a closer look. I must also add that this year's budget has been particularly challenging. As many of you know, on March 30th, we lost a longtime budget leader, Mr. John Allure. John was promoted to the Budget and Management Services Director just 1 year ago, and his sudden death was felt deeply by not just his staff, but our entire city government. I might also say that his loss was felt by many outside of Durham, for his reach spanned the United States and Canada, his native country. This budget proposal is dedicated to John. We are grateful for having known this great, multi-talented person whom many have called a true Renaissance man. I'd especially like to thank Interim Director Christina Reardon. Christina stepped up at this critical and challenging time to lead the way as we developed this budget. Christina, I know it was not easy, but you and your staff excelled throughout this process. Going back to the wind analogy, there's a quote that goes like this: "She stood in the storm, and when the wind did not blow her way, she adjusted her sails." My sincere thanks to you and your staff. City Council and staff will review the details of this proposed budget at next week's budget work sessions on May 24th and May 25th, beginning at 9 a.m. each day in the committee room on the second floor of City Hall. Due to limited space, we invite the public, our neighbors, to watch the live stream on the city's YouTube channel. We also encourage the public to share your thoughts at our budget public hearing, which will take place during the June 5th City Council meeting, beginning at 7 p.m. We remain committed to transparency in the budget as well as in our total operations. Therefore, the complete proposed budget is now available for your review on the city's website at durhamnc.gov/budget. We continue to be a destination of choice for new residents. While we acknowledge our challenges as a community, Durham is still a dynamic city. In fact, you should know that the Durham metro area is ranked as one of the best places to live, number 6, by U.S. News and World Report. This is based on how well a city meets their residents' expectations for where to live, based on affordability, based on quality of life, and desirability overall. The latest ranking should be released tomorrow, and I believe our ranking will be even higher for this year. I am not surprised that so many consider Durham a best place to live. There are many reasons we all love living here. We know we're nowhere near perfect, but we do know that by working together, we can all love living here. You can learn more about our news, programs, services, and operations right in your news feed. by following the city on our social media channels. I also encourage you to watch our news videos, Bull City Today, Bull City Rap, and our talk show, City Life, or listen to our podcasts to get information daily as to what's going on with your local government. You can also subscribe to our 2 newsletters, City Connect and Durham Digest, directly on our homepage at durhamnc.gov. Our communications department works hard to communicate what we're doing for this community, and I hope that you'll engage with us on any of these channels to stay current on what's happening with your local gov. Finally, thank you, Mayor and City Council, for your leadership on behalf of all of our neighbors of our great city of Durham, North Carolina. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager Page. As you all know, this is going to be the first of several opportunities that we will talk about our budget. I am going to turn it over to my colleagues at this time for any comments, and then we will go right to our speakers, some of whom will join us, who have joined us remotely, as well as those who are in chambers about this item. Colleagues, any comments? Councilwoman Caballero.
Just very briefly, thank you so much, Madam Manager. That was an excellent budget. I look forward to our sessions next week and to the next budget hearing, public hearing, I should say. This is an incredible budget, especially considering how much we're able to do and that there is no tax raise for residents this year.
Thank you, Councilwoman Caballero. Any other comments to my right? To my left, any comments? Councilman Williams, followed by Councilwoman Johnson.
Yep, briefly, you are a superwoman. I don't know how you do this. It's not like this council doesn't fill your hands up. You have your hands full with us. Thank you so much for making the impossible possible. And I hope that the community really dig into seeing how complicated this was, and she just made it look easy. So thank you.
Yeah, ditto to that. Yeah, this is an incredible budget. I'm really excited to see all the new programs and staff positions, and to do that without a tax increase is really incredible. And I want to just especially appreciate the attention that's being paid to expanding the HEART pilot. That's really important work for our community, and as our city manager said, has become a national model for this type of work. Durham is really leading the way in figuring out how to do this really important work. And I just wanted to appreciate the robust expansion that the city manager is proposing, and look forward to continuing to discuss it in all of our other budget items in our work sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Johnson and Councilman Williams. We now turn to persons who have signed up to speak. I first want to, I think Ms. Howard is here in person. Is that correct, Ms.? All right, thank you. I'd first like to turn our attention to our persons who have signed up from our firefighters. Ms. Carter, you're free to call those 3 names. I do have Mr. Darius Thompson and also Mr. Ricky Williams, but if you have 3 additional persons that would like to speak at this time to this item, they are welcome to come forward at this time. Those persons who are desiring to speak. I also would encourage all of you all to come back on Thursday too, and when we get ready to vote. This is what democracy looks like. If you just state your name, and you have 3 minutes, okay?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Meredith Carter. I'm a firefighter here in Durham. So good evening to the council members, Madam Mayor, Madam Manager Page. Sorry, I wasn't expecting to go today. If you remember me, I'm the firefighter that spoke at the January council meeting in 2022, right before our mid-year pay adjustment was approved. I spoke about how I had been stuck at the firefighter 0 pay step for 3 years, and I asked the council to please place firefighters in the correct pay step. After I spoke, the council, the mayor, and representatives from HR promised that the pay scale adjustment was just the first step towards making our pay right. In the 16 months since that meeting, I have not seen any action from the city management, HR, or the council towards placing firefighters in the correct pay step. So I'm now a firefighter in my 5th year of service. I'm at the firefighter step 1 in our pay plan. This amounts to $45,115 per year, or $15.49 per hour. That's multiple dollars less than the livable wage. I'm at this pay step because our raises were frozen for multiple years during COVID. The city has a long history of compressing its firefighters through unfairly implemented pay plans. We have a captain who has been a captain for 22 years, and he is still at step 9. He should have been at step 10 for 11 years by now. The top ends of our pay steps have become all but unattainable. What's worse, when we look around at our neighboring departments, we can see how far behind we truly are. A 5th-year firefighter in Greensboro makes 17.6% more than I do here in Durham. So many firefighters that watched that council meeting felt heartened by the promises made to them by HR, the mayor, and various council members. And the lack of action, we've seen that in our retention. So far this year, not including retirements, we've lost 17 firefighters, including retirements, that 22. So we are on track to lose 61 firefighters this year alone. As a reminder, we are a fire department of just over 400 employees. And these are not just warm bodies we're losing. We're losing our future leaders of this department. You might be wondering how much it costs the city when one of our highly trained firefighters leaves. It costs about $70,000 in training, plus conservatively $150,000 in hire back. That is hiring back an off-duty firefighter at their overtime rate to fill that position until a new firefighter can be recruited and trained. So that's a total cost of around $220,000 per firefighter that walks out the door. We have created a detailed plan. The local 668 Firefighters Union has created a detailed plan that shows which step every single person in our department should be at. We estimate that cost of correcting this compression to be a little bit less than $2.5 million in base salary. If this change prevents 11 firefighters from resigning, it will have paid for itself. Additionally, per the second quarter financial report presented on February 23rd, we are under budget by $6.2 million as far as personnel costs for the current fiscal year. My brothers and sisters and I, we love our jobs. We love being firefighters, and we love serving this community. We just ask that the city uphold its end of the deal and fairly compensate us for our years of service. We are asking each council member to please be our advocate and ask HR to come up with a plan to put the city's firefighters into the correct pay steps. Thank you very much for your time.
I would call forth Mr. Darius Thompson and also Mr. Ricky Williams and Ms. Carter. If there are 2 others, they would be welcome to come. I just asked that they fill out a card so that we'll have the correct record. Mr. Thompson?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I hate this under these circumstances, though. My name is Darius Thompson. I've been with the Durham Fire Department for 10 years, and I'm a driver. I chose to work in Durham because I saw how the city was moving. You had a new ballpark, thriving downtown, not to mention the numerous ongoing community projects y'all had. This made Durham one of the most desirable cities to live in the nation. As we seen earlier, it was ranked highest all the time. I try to provide that service that matches the city, which the city gives to the community. But because it has become apparent that the city of Durham is unwilling to give the same level of care to its public safety employees, and it hurts. When the city gave us a raise in 2017, then again in 2021, it hurt not get put on the correct step. It already takes 11 years for us to top out, and we're not even able to maintain on the correct step. When I have my colleagues in neighboring departments, only taking 5 to 6 years to top out. I had a colleague leave for a higher paid department nearby, and he immediately told me I needed to come with him. I decided to stay in Durham because I love this city. It's a process and a thought process I have all the time of, did I make the right decision for my family? Right now, he's been with the city that he's joined for 6 years. He's still a firefighter. I'm a promoted driver that's been with the city for 10 years, and he still makes $15,000 more than me. I don't know if y'all realize this. The city of Durham, right now, the starting pay for the firefighter is roughly $40,000. We're one of the lowest in the state. For such a great city, I don't understand why we're such a low-paying department. Right now, in the city of Durham, the average apartment rent for a one-bedroom apartment is $1,432. At $40,000, that's more than 50% of somebody's income pre-taxed. How are they supposed to afford to live in the city that they serve and love? Right now, we work 112 hours every 2 weeks, while other employees work 80 hours every 2 weeks. In a year's time, that's 2,912 hours versus a regular employee working 2,080 hours. That's an 832-hour difference, but my time isn't worth the same as others. And I hear that when you advertise the livable wage, because when you did the livable wage, you didn't include none of the public safety, and it hurt. It says that my time is not the same as an IT specialist. My time is not the same as a lifeguard or accountant. My time doesn't mean the same. So I'll leave you with this as my time goes short, and I'll tell you a story. One day I signed up to work an overtime shift, as many of us do to try to get more income. So I was working at 72, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. My wife brought my 5-year-old son to see me on Saturday. As the baby boy, he loves me the most, of course, from the other two. But she brings him by, he's happy to see me, he loves it, and he cries when he has to leave. My son cried for 30 minutes home. He also cried when he got home for an additional 15 minutes till my wife let him call me back. And the only thing he said to me is, Dad, I wish you was home. I wish you could spend more time at home. Now, I understand when I took this job, I'm gonna miss some of my kids' birthdays, because that's the way it works. I'm gonna miss some of the things they have at school, some of the programs they have, some of the ball games and sporting events. But to sit here and say that my time is not the same as somebody else, it hurts, and it hurts deep. As my wife always says, if you know better, you do better. At this point, we've talked about this for years, and it seems like y'all know, y'all just don't care. I'm asking you this evening to please recognize our years of service and sacrifice we have given to the city by placing us in the correct pay band, so we may be appropriately and fairly compensated for our work. Thank you.
Mr. Ricky Williams.
Good evening. I'll try and keep it brief for you. So I've been with the city for 12 years now, and ever since I got here in 2011, the city has kind of pushed this narrative of annual pay raises and a 10-step pay plan. And somehow in 12 years, due to pay freezes and pay plan adjustments that leave us stuck in the same step, I've never made it past the equivalent of step 6. And any one of us here in the blue shirts can tell you the exact same story. We've put in our time with the city. All that we ask is that the city hold up its end of the bargain. That's especially relevant when you've got every other city in our area, Raleigh, Cary, Greensboro, Wake Forest, Apex, Knightdale, the list goes on. All of them have starting pays higher than the city of Durham. I'm not talking about any little chump change here. I'm talking about $10,000, $15,000 higher than our pay. How do we justify that? How do we justify that as a city as wealthy as Durham, that we have one of the lowest paid fire departments in the state? We see the economic boom that's going on here, and yet somehow we still can't afford our pay hasn't kept pace with the increase in rent and housing costs. Now, I understand, at the top of the city, it's easy to get disconnected from what's going on down here at the bottom. But I want you to take it from us down here at the bottom, all of us in these blue shirts, the ones that show up to put out your fires and pull you out of car wrecks, provide emergency medical care, that you got a real problem on your hands. Because anyone who's been here less than 10 years or so doesn't have a whole lot of incentive to stay. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but Durham Fire Department is made up of about 60% of people who've got less than 10 years here. So you've got 60% of your fire department employees considering other job options so we can make ends meet. All I'm asking you tonight is to place us in our correct pay steps and include us in the minimum livable wage of $17 an hour. No, we're putting in 60 hours a week, 24-hour shifts, 240 hours a month, and we still don't make the same livable wage as everyone else. We don't get overtime in that. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Ms. Carter, do you have any other, are there other two people? Come on up. Thank you. If you would just state your name.
Madam Mayor. Oops, hang on. Thank you, Madam Mayor. City Council members, Madam Manager, my name is Touche Howard. I've been with the Durham Fire Department for 20 years, where I'm currently a captain. During that 20 years, I've worked on 3 different pay plans for the fire department. And I'm embarrassed to tell you, in spite of that background, it wasn't until recently that I thought to compare our starting salary to the Durham living wage. But I have now, and this is what it looks like. And we can give you a copy of this later. But the critical thing to know is that from 2003 to 2016, our starting salary hovered around the living wage and on average was about 2% greater. From 2017 on, it's been in a downward spiral to the point where even with the new budget that's been proposed, we're going to be about 18% below the living wage. Now, since I didn't think to do this until recently, I can't expect that city management, council members, or our fire admin would also think to do it. But now you have, I think, a really good landmark to work with, and you can understand the frustration of our people. The reason I came here tonight is, as a captain in your fire department, it is my sworn duty to do everything I can to protect this community. And I would be failing you. I would be failing you in that duty if I didn't come here tonight and explain to you that we truly are in a crisis, as the other speakers have described. The fire service is the last beacon of hope for many people in this community. It's critical that you somehow find a solution to these issues and continue to protect that beacon of hope for those people. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, Madam Manager. My name is Jason Davis, and I am the president of Local 668. I'm here, and I represent all of these people that are in blue shirts in front of you tonight. I'm proud to say that these men and women put their lives on the line every single day for the citizens, the visitors of Durham. We truly believe that the city itself needs to hold up their end of the deal. And when I say that every person out here in that blue shirt knew exactly what they were signing up for. We knew what the starting pay was. But when we were in the academy, they held in front of us a pay scale. And that pay scale told us that if we did our job and we did it well, that we would get our 5% merit raise every year. That's what we were told, and that's what was explained to us. That hasn't been done, and that seems to be the trend that keeps following year after year after year. When I say that, I say this dates back before any of you were on council, before you were a city manager, before you were mayor. But now is the time for us to fix this problem. Stop this problem from keep getting worse. Because every year it goes on, the more it's going to cost the city to fix it in the long run. It's not going to stop. It's only going to get more expensive. So please, consider putting us in the right step now. That is what we're asking for to help stop this bleed. okay? Just to give you some idea of where we're at right now. On average, every firefighter, on average, is 11% behind where we should be in our pay structure. We have one person that is 34% behind where they should be at in their pay structure. 34% behind. That's not fair. How can we ask them to risk their lives to spend their time away from their family and not compensate them correctly? It's just not fair. It's not equitable. Everything we heard tonight was equity. Have equity in your firefighters. Make it fair for us. Because we don't care who's on the other side of that 911 call, we're going. And we go every time. There has not been a fire yet we haven't gone to. There hasn't been a car crash we haven't gone to. We worked hard through COVID. We showed up every day in COVID. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Davis, I think you indicated, or someone indicated, that there is a report that you all have compiled. It will be very helpful if we are able to see that report. If you would give that report to each council member by email, it will be very helpful to see the report that you all have compiled.
Yeah, we will gladly email all of our documentation that we have to everybody, all council members. I do believe that all council members have been reached out to from our pay committee. We have supplied a few different PowerPoints that describe the current situation. We do also have a very strong pay committee within our local that has actually taken the time to run each individual firefighter through the pay ranks and the matrix based on their hire date, their promotion dates, years of service, all of that. So we'd be glad to send that along to all of you. Again, thank you for your time, your consideration.
And I can speak for myself. I'd definitely be willing to meet with the pay committee. The more that you tell me, the more that you educate me, the better I am able to make decisions, okay? So please feel free to contact my office, and we'll be ready, stand ready to meet with your pay committee, and I'm sure others on the council will do the same as well, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you so much again for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other, I know that we're going to have some more opportunities for our firefighters to speak to us. Once again, I indicated, you know, for this Thursday, please come back. Also, if you can, to sign up. For me, the more that I hear, the better I am able to take it in, what you're asking for from us. And so we'll have these very important conversations. I don't think that there is one of us up here who take you all for granted. Not at all. The work that you do, most of us would not do in our community, and you show up every single day, 24 hours a day. I remember having a conversation with a firefighter who said, you know, it's not many city employees who wash clothes for each other. You all do that. And so I thank you for coming out tonight. I thank you for what you're doing with the city of Durham. We've heard you, we see you, and I can only speak for me. I will look in detail at the information that you would provide so that I can make a competent decision on what you're asking for. So thank you, and I'll open the floor up for any other comments from my colleagues. Councilman Hosey Hyman.
I think the firefighters know that I totally support them. My husband wouldn't be here when his heart stopped last year. And the first people who came to my house were firefighters. I have met with the local firefighter officials. They have given me the documentation. And in the pre-budget hearing, I spoke about it. and I advocated for an increase for the firefighters. I'm glad that the mayor is going to look at the documentation that I've had, that I brought up at the pre-budget. I am in support of whatever we can do to get you on the right pay steps. Because again, my husband would not be here if it wasn't for you coming to that home. You were the first ones on scene and shocked his heart back, and he is now still with me. I support you.
Councilwoman Freeman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just really want to just send my heartfelt apologies. I think every year I've had this conversation with many of those in the local, and it's been frustrating. I stand with you on trying to figure out how best to move forward. I know that I did make that request in my budget briefing to figure out what that would look like. I've yet to hear what that is, but I am hopeful that there are 4 of us on this council this year that would exactly push in making sure that that happened. I think I've done that push every year, and yeah, it's just frustrating, but I think this is the year to get there. I think the last 2 years with COVID was definitely not the time, and it's time to catch up. And so I'm hopeful, I'm more than hopeful that we'll get there. Thank you.
Councilwoman Johnson, followed by Councilman Williams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I know we don't get, 50, 60 city employees who all work really demanding jobs to come, to a meeting on a weeknight unless we have a serious problem. And I want you to know that we hear you, and we are, all of us, looking into this. Our city manager has already been asked to give us numbers for what this would cost, and we'll also be, looking at your numbers as well. And yeah, this is, I want you to know that you have made it very, very clear to us that this is an issue that we need to resolve. So thank you for being here, and thank you for your advocacy and your organizing. One thing I wanted to point out as we look into this issue with HR, 2017 is the year that we set our minimum livable wage on an annual increase. So prior to that, the increases were less regular. And since 2017, it's been increasing every year. And so it's clear that when we designed that policy, it was not good enough that we've left out workers and having that regular increase that somehow we didn't fully capture what the need was in the city when we designed that policy. It was really illuminating to me to see that chart and to know that that was when the policy changed. And I think it's that, we have, by putting that policy in place, we're making sure that for most of the city, those wages go up every year, and y'all haven't had that same increase. So yeah, thank you again for educating us. It's been important to hear from you and to learn from you, and look forward to continuing to work with you to resolve this issue. I, of course, have also, experienced the incredible services of our fire department. My grandma had a bad fall a couple months ago. First people on the scene, fire department, making sure she was comfortable, checking her vitals. We had someone actually clean an emergency department room for her because there weren't any nurses available. And she's like, I know how to clean this. I'm just going to clean it for you so you can be comfortable in the room. So I also know personally how hard y'all work and how important your work is to this community. And thank you. I appreciate you with words, and will, hopefully also appreciate you with some money in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First thing, I've learned that there are a lot of Jasons that work for the fire department. I didn't realize that until tonight. I think I've probably spoken to 2 or 3 of you all. I don't want to use the language of, our support, at least I know. I believe everybody on this council supports this. And the more you make it clear, the more we're going to respond to it. But you don't have to make it any more clear, because the message is there. All right. I do know that there's some complexities around this, and I got to say this, that we had at least I know some of us did have conversations with Manager Page, and she's responding. And there were some folks I was speaking to recently. Like I said, there are a lot of Jasons. So one of the Jasons, I said, you're going to hear from, I believe I said, you're going to hear from Councilmember Johnson or myself, because at the time she and I had spoken about it. But I know that there is a proposal that is being worked on. I heard your request that get HR to get a plan in place, and they're working on that. So I don't want the public in general to think that this is being ignored. It is being worked on, and it will be addressed. And I think it's very clear that this council supports you, not only with the sizable raise, but also getting you in the appropriate place. We'll make it happen. We do care. We do hear you. And I think that everybody, we don't have to separate that. I think everybody gives a day. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I want to thank all of Durham's bravest that have come and spoken to us tonight. So you constantly run towards what the rest of us run away from, and we don't take that for granted. Since the time I've been on this council, since 2017, I have not experienced one council member ever who has not been wholeheartedly supportive of doing right by our fire department and by all of our employees. When we did the 40% increase, we wanted the impression that we were doing right and we were doing good. That it was the first step. We get a lot of data coming at us from folk in the community, from the staff, and I want to give because tonight you don't want promises or posturing tonight, you want action. You want to vote. You don't want empty cliches or posturing or anything. So we hear you. We see you. Every time at night when it's dark and we hear that plaintive wail of a siren in the distance, we thank God for you. We know that you're out there for us and holding the line for us. So tonight, our manager has heard. We've been having this conversation before. We've actually had this conversation tonight. I'm learning some things about compression because, I've heard explanations that even addressing compression could cause more compression in some other areas. Wherever you touch the system, there's going to be things happening. So let us do the work. Let our staff do the work. I'm looking forward to having something that, not just to make a speech about, but to actually vote on and address it. Durham's Fire Department is the best trained fire department in the state of North Carolina. It's got the best certifications. That's why we get poached so much and why folk come looking for our firefighters. We need to make sure this is the best place for you to work. We want the best people and we want to pay them the best. That's across the board. We hear you. We appreciate you. Let us do the work. And our managers heard you as well. Thank you.
Councilwoman Caballero.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I just wanted to say thank you to the firefighters who showed up to advocate for yourselves. Agree with everything that my colleagues have said, and I look forward to getting the work done and getting y'all some raises.
All right, we will now continue with our other speakers for this evening. I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight, firefighters. We look forward to seeing some of you all, I hope, on Thursday, and I hope to see you again when we get ready to vote. Please have meetings with us. Some of us are still in kindergarten when it comes to compression and all those issues. I might be in the first grade just a little bit, so I'm going to need for you all to kind of help me to get up to speed again, but something's going to happen this year if Elaine O'Neill has anything to do with it. So we have Jasic, I don't want to pronounce your last, ORZECHOWSKI to come. Mr. Okay, thank you, sir. Latasha Williams will follow. Fernandra G-A-R-A-N-I-T, I believe. P-H-A-N-I-N-D-R-A-J-A-R-A-N-I-T, and then Mr. Russell Pierce. All right, thank you. I slaughtered a lot of names. If you give us 1 second to let folk kind of go out so that we can make sure we don't miss anything that you have to say, okay? You doing okay this evening?
Great. Good evening. My name is Father Jacek Orzechowski. I'm pastor of Immaculate Conception Church. I'm also
Father, would you suspend for just a little bit?
Let those, because we're gonna have a you know what? Do you all wanna go ahead and try to take a break at this time? Or we're gonna, let's finish this. Either way, we can wait for a second. More than 10 minutes. Yeah. All right, Father.
all right.
I think we might almost be there. Give us a second. Yes, sir.
All right. So once again, good evening. My name is Father Jacek Orzechowski. I serve as pastor at Immaculate Conception Church. I'm also a member of the Durham Can strategy team. Our parishioners have been working closely with Durham Can to address the inequities many of our members face every day. As pastor of over 2,200 Latino families, I often hear from our parishioners about the adverse impacts the substandard housing has on their lives. Both the language barrier and economic inequality make it difficult for them to secure proper living conditions for them and their families. In the past, our church has hosted large meetings, which included candidates for mayor and the city council, as we sought to address the need for more bilingual city employees. Following this engagement, our mayor attended a housing inspection of an apartment complex where many of our families live. Because of her leadership, their homes are now up to code. So we thank you, Madam Mayor. Durham Can worked with the City Council to increase the pay for all its bilingual staff last year, and we applaud this move. As we look closely into the issue of substandard housing, we realize that there is a need for an additional bilingual code inspector in Durham. Although the Neighborhood Improvement Services Department does have Spanish-speaking personnel, those staffers have others full-time responsibilities, and NIS only have the opportunity to address the inspections after they finish their other work. That means our families receive a second-class services or not at all. The funding request for a bilingual housing inspector has been part of the NIS request over the past 2 years. Both times, the request has been downgraded to a lower priority. However, this issue is too important for our Spanish-speaking families to keep waiting to live in dignified conditions. We spoke today with the NIS director, and she told us that they are hiring for 2 jobs, which they hope to fill with bilingual staff. However, those are not code enforcement positions, and moving them to inspections would create a capacity gap elsewhere. I stand here alongside many of my parishioners. And there were 60 of us came, 45 our Spanish-speaking parishioners, some of whom are here directly affected by the issue of substandard housing. Yet we are joined by 25 plus other Durham Can institutions representing thousands of other Durham residents who also support this funding request for bilingual housing inspector. please prioritize funding a bilingual housing inspector, code inspector. Thank you.
Ms. Williams, if you would state your name for me, please, your full name.
Good evening. My name is Latasha Williams. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Madam Pro Temp, Madam City Manager, and members of the council. I'm a member of Abundant Hope Christian Church and an active member of Durham CAN and a part of Durham CAN's poverty research team. Over the last few months, our poverty team has been researching the negative effects that source of income discrimination has on families using housing choice vouchers to find safe and stable housing in Durham. During this process, we discovered that Neighborhood Improvement Services has requested funding in this year's budget for a full-time bilingual housing code enforcement inspector. On behalf of Durham CAN and low-income tenants, we are organizing with. I am here today to share with you why fully funded for a bilingual inspector for this year's budget is important to not only myself, but for the people who we fight for. From personal experience working in property management for the last 3 years and currently in this field, I have firsthand seen residents and potential residents and the way that they're being treated. Even after they have been approved for housing, waiting for as long as a month or longer for their inspection to be completed. This requirement is essential, but the wait time has placed a burden on what is supposed to be a smooth transition for families. Some have also been left without a place to stay due to their new apartment or house not being inspected in the required time. And thinking for myself, being a mom of 2, knowing that I have gotten all the way up to this point where I signed on the dotted line and I'm waiting and not knowing where me and my children will go. Some have also, an additional NIS inspector could also help alleviate DHA's burden on timely inspection for families using housing choice vouchers. The City of Durham bears the responsibility of ensuring that its residents have access to safe and humane housing. Without an adequate number of housing inspectors, low-income tenants, particularly those of Spanish-speaking, are left defenseless of the whims of their landlords, which means they are subjected to poor living conditions out of the fear of retaliation far too often. Tonight, our desire is to increase transparency and accountability in tenant-landlord relations in Durham and in funding a full-time bilingual inspector for neighborhood improvement services. We believe the City Council has an opportunity to do just that. Thank you.
I have Mr. or Ms. Jaranit. The first name is Phanindra. Thank you. And then Mr. Pierce, you'll follow.
Well, first I want to thank the mayor and the city council for having me and allowing me to speak.
If you would state your name.
My name is Manager Wanda.
Thank you.
People call me PJ. I was born and raised in Durham, so I'm happy. This is my first time attending, and I've enjoyed hearing all the aspects that you all deal with every meeting. I wanted to show you all, I wanted to tell you all what happened today to my friends. This is for really the Durham Parks and Rec Department, but you all oversee that. This is what you call a pickleball paddle. My friends we've been playing at Duke. And Duke, they have a committed space for pickleball courts. And today my friends went there to play this morning, and they were told by the Duke security guards that you will no longer be able to play here without a Duke ID. So my friends were like, well, where do we go in Durham to play? And I said, well, there's a place in Chapel Hill that we can play that welcomes us. And my friends were like, yeah, but we don't want to go to Chapel Hill. We want to play in Durham. So I ask you all, it's a growing sport. It's the fastest growing sport in America. And our friends in Chapel Hill and Raleigh are making accommodations for pickleball courts. And I would ask that you all consider this and put it as a priority in the Durham Parks and Recreation budget, as well as look into the Pineywood pickleball situation and make sure that's, A, going to happen and it's on schedule, and that we have the funds that, that I was told that Durham was committed to making to make sure that has happened. Thank you for your time and listening to me today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. If you will state your name, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I am Russell Pierce. I serve as Executive Director of Housing for New Hope. On January 25th, one of the coldest nights of the year, nearly 150 volunteers were deployed in teams across the city and county for the annual point-in-time count to count those who are experiencing homelessness. We are grateful, Madam Mayor, that you and other colleagues from the council and also the county commissioners were with us that evening and were able to meet some of our community's most vulnerable neighbors in the places that they currently call home. Just 2 weeks ago, this year's count was released, and the overall number of people experiencing homelessness, it actually dropped by 18%, from 459 to 375 over the last year. But that drop actually relates primarily to a 35% reduction in shelter capacity as spaces funded by COVID grants have been taken offline. Within that 375, though, of folks still experiencing homelessness, a deeper dive reveals some significant challenges. We continue to see an overrepresentation of African Americans among those experiencing homelessness, 50% higher than our community's population. 68% of the population is male. We've seen a 100% increase in people identifying as Hispanic being counted just over the last year, from 14 to 29. We are seeing families who are unsheltered, sleeping in cars many times, which is actually something we were not seeing 3 to 4 years ago. On the night of the count, there were 10 families, including 16 children, who were out in cars and other places outdoors. The unsheltered count itself, those who can't access urban ministries or families moving forward, continues to increase, up 105% since 2020, 300% since 2018. This year, we counted 158 people. The answer to homelessness, of course, is housing, and therein lies one of the greatest challenges. The stock of affordable housing, especially housing accessible to those at 50% AMI or less, is dropping as long-time rental homes are sold to become owner-occupied dwellings. As rental costs soar past HUD's fair market rents that limit what agencies like ours can spend to support clients, and as properties are sold and converted to market rate units. This is a problem across the state. As the former head of the North Carolina Coalition to End Homelessness said last week, across the state we are losing more affordable housing than we are able to create even with the boldest initiatives. On Thursday during your work session, Housing for New Hope, along with partners from Alliance Health, Duke, Urban Ministries, Durham Congregations in Action, Durham Can, and actually a number of our partners are here with us tonight. I'd ask them to stand if they would. We will be before you on Thursday with a bold ask to match a commitment made last Monday night by the Durham County Commissioners to provide $3,025,000 to support the purchase of Carver Creek Apartments. This will enable the preservation of 48 units of affordable housing that are scheduled to lose all their protections at the end of this year. It would secure undeveloped land on that property that, when combined with land that Housing for New Hope already owns, could create an additional 45 to 50 units of affordable housing, and it would support the phased development of a master plan supportive housing campus, including 120 total units of supportive housing with deeply integrated on-site services for our most vulnerable neighbors. Much like a hurricane blowing through, we first need to take action to preserve this property and the unique opportunity that it presents. And then, just like in disaster response and recovery, there's a disaster risk reduction phase, where we need as a community to develop a strategy for preserving the existing affordable housing that is in danger of being lost as protections end, so that we can arrest the dramatic increases we are seeing in our unsheltered populations. We've spoken with great pride tonight on the amount of additional housing we are creating, but if we lose too much of what exists, it will become replacement housing, not additional affordable housing. Thank you.
We thank you all for tonight, coming tonight. That will conclude, and I let folk kind of run over, so I know you all are watching. I did, but since I let the firefighters run over, I had to let everybody else. But when we come back, we will hold to our 3 minutes for our speakers, so I ask that you all be cognizant of that. And we will take our recess until 9:11 for 10 minutes at this time, and we will come back and continue with our public